Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today is the fifth episode, or it's the fifth episode of the Island Empire series. And so the first thing I do is I move my army from Sicily over to Ireland. You know what I'm gonna invade next. And hell, I even start recruiting Irish people for the job. Because, you know they're gonna do it, right? You guys know what's coming. So I start mass recruiting on Ireland as well, right? Making sure that, I'm not really taking any sort of, I'm basically making sure I win this. And I start gathering up all my forces, making sure that they line up on the borders right. And without further ado, I start the invasion. And it goes pretty well, actually. And I immediately move on to Cornwall right after taking over Northern Ireland. Because I'm taking a more systematic approach. And thing was, I brought such overwhelming numbers that like there was not even like a serious counterattack that came from the British or UK or United Kingdom, whatever, that came from the UK, like as even after I invaded or like after I landed. Like normally you expect some like counterattack that like takes out half my army, but like no, that didn't even happen this time because my army was just like that massive. So I basically made it halfway up through the country already. I started reaching like Scotland, and of course I was going for the whole territory, so I didn't stop here. I didn't stop anywhere, and I even sent some troops back so that they could what do you call attack the like those I don't know what the islands are even called, but those British islands to like the north. And the British actually managed to get through my lines somehow. Like I don't know how that happened, but they did. And so I mean, luckily I was able to contain it. And I sent my troops up to those islands and captured the last ones, and just like that, the UK was conquered. So boom, this one is actually the first like really big pickup, like one of the major islands. Like it's the UK. I mean, like the UK is like the first major island that I've taken, right? Like keep in mind, it's mainly like the big powers, big island powers, obviously like UK, Japan, Indonesia, like out of those three, and Australia. But okay, wait, no, if you wanna, okay, fine, but that's there, right? Anyways, whatever you classify, but like still very big pickup. I disbanded my army pretty quick, so because I wanted the money, and I spent the next couple of turns assimilating the UK, because uh, honestly, I don't even know. Like, guys, whenever I narrate over an assimilation and just talk about how I assimilate a place, like, is there anything for me to say? Like, how do I narrate assimilation? Do I just say like, oh, we're getting rid of their culture? Maybe that's what I should say. Well, anyways, after that, I started looking around. The last couple of islands that I'd need to conquer were all in Asia, basically. But then I remembered that Russia actually has a bunch of islands to the north that I could totally take over. So I started looking over at my territories all around, and I realized that I could take them. I had a bunch of troops just sitting there in Sweden, like the islands of Sweden, and so I was like, why not use them against Russia? And so I sent them to attack the Russian islands, and like this invasion was going great, right? We were just like going through the islands one by one. It was easy, it was simple. And then I check if this last island that like looks like an island, but it's not, because it's actually connected to the mainland province, so I didn't want to take it. But then I remembered Sakhalin exists, so I sent, and then I was reminded of the Kuril Islands, so I sent them there, right? And then the thing was, it was very annoying to play in these like Arctic, because the tiles are so massive. It's like hard. It's easy to lose track of your troops, right? But I realized I missed this island, so like I sent them back over to get it, and then I sent these guys down all the way to the Kuril Islands. But then all of a sudden, Russia pulls a naval invasion of the UK. Like, guys, considering for a country that's being absolutely demolished by like a multitude of nations, I did not expect that, right? I'm gonna be real, but I did not expect that. And all of a sudden, then Indonesia attacks me. Now I get scared, genuinely, because Indonesia, right? In my mind, I'm like, I'm not ready to fight Indonesia. And surprisingly, though, when I ask for peace, the AI actually gives it to me. Like I start raising armies for it, but still, the AI gave me peace, surprisingly. Meanwhile, over on the Russian side of things, I move out of the Kuril Islands and attack Sakhalin, of course. Or actually, no, I moved to the next Kuril Island, and then all of a sudden, Russia pulls another naval invasion. Bro, this time they're in Greece. Like, I don't even know what the Russians are doing. Like, what's their game plan, man? They attack the UK first, then they attack Greece. Like, I don't know what they're doing. Okay? But finally, I take all the islands that I want from Russia, but at the same time, I don't have enough score points, so I send these guys down to attack Vladivostok. And so once they do, I just start advancing like it's nobody's business, right? It's very simple. They don't even stop me. I'm just walking through Russia. Funny enough, Japan did the same thing in like World War One, but whatever. But what's interesting is Russia counterattacks me in the Arctic. Like, gentlemen, I had to construct a port in the part of Russia I invaded specifically because I wanted to attack with these troops. It's so, like, why? I don't know. I don't know what possessed them to do such a thing, but I did it, right? And like I started attacking, they started counterattacking my forces, and I'm like, okay, let's leave it for now. And I was like, I'll take these guys in the UK and send them to that island, and then they can take it back, and then that way we can be done. Meanwhile, their attacks on the mainland started intensifying. So I was a little concerned, but luckily I was able to get that island and get Sakhalin as well, and the Kuril Islands as well. And then I even took some extra territory from them in East Russia. And then I developed Vladivostok too. I mean, you guys know what I'm about to do here. I basically just created a puppet state. I think I just I brought back the Russian Empire because why not, honestly. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything else. Seemed fitting. And I just left Russia to do whatever it wants. Actually, surprisingly, Russia managed to like clutch and survive what seemed like complete annihilation, albeit at massive cost. Meanwhile, I was looking over at the side of the world. Indonesia and Australia were at it with a war, and I was like, let's go. They're weakening each other. But then I was like, maybe I should just totally invade Australia like right now. So I gather everybody in the Philippines, right? I start pulling all the troops from New Guinea, send them to the Philippines. I start assimilating. Okay, you know this. I mean, it's kind of like weird how I just like I'm be real. Imagine the Russian peace deal, like me, like I don't know, my Cuban diplomat just coming to the Russian peace deal, being like, I want the Arctic islands. And then the Russian diplomat is like, you mean those useless patches of land that nobody cares about? And I'm like, yes, I want those. And then I just take them. I don't know, the thought of that sounds really funny to me. Anyways, I milked the Philippines manpower and just like mass recruited here as well. Again, I think. I don't know how many times I've done this. But yeah, and I just gathered everybody in Manila, right? Almost my entire army, and it was massive. Okay, 142,000. And funny enough, instead of invading Australia, because I wanted to let Australia and Indonesia fight it out, I invaded Japan, launching Operation Downfall, basically. And then I was about to continue on invading Kyushu, but then I realized, whoa, the Japanese were like launching counterattacks, right? And at first I was like, okay, they're gonna tire themselves out eventually. But then I realized their attacks just like kept coming. And at some point they started pushing me back, and I was like, okay, I need to start pushing now. I need to gain back the initiative. But then they just kept coming. And like, even though their attacks started getting like weaker over time a little bit, they still had thousands of people. And I was like, okay, I can't let these guys keep like lining up and attacking me. I gotta move. But they just kept coming. Like, these naval invasions, they just kept coming. And then by the time they stopped, my army had been whittled down. And I mean chipped away to like weakness. And soon enough, I'd taken over Ryukyu. I actually know these islands because of geography. Hold on. I know them, okay? Bottom island is Kyushu. The smallest island is Shikoku. Big one is Honshu, and the top one is Hokkaido. Yes, sir. Okay, but I'd taken over Kyushu and Shikoku like pretty easily. But I was on Honshu, right? And like, I was bringing in reinforcements, and these guys still managed to like whittle down my like. When I mean whittle down, I mean they chipped like there was no tomorrow. Genuinely chipped like there was no tomorrow. Like bro, they just kept bringing like 1,000 people from the sea every single time, and it was like so frustrating, right? And I kept pushing on and on, and eventually I made it like halfway up to the through the country, and now by now my army was just in the mere thousands. Keep in mind, this started out as 140,000 people, and soon I made it all the way to Tokyo, painstakingly. I got invaded by Brunei for some reason, but I made peace with them. Who cares? But back to Japan. Yes, I finally made it into Tokyo, but at some point later on, as I continued invading and continued, I tried to push as far possible, but ultimately I realized my lines were way too thin, and to avoid any further Japanese like counterattack, I kept rearranging, right? But I realized they were way too thin, and I didn't want to like risk a counterattack any further than they already did. So I just decided, okay, now's the time, throw in the towel, make peace. I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.